Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, This Story Ain't Over. So today we are in a new year, finally. It is 2021 and I'm coming to you with my January TBR, but also some goals I have for 2021, some reading goals and general YouTube goals that I thought I would share with you guys. As we all know, 2020 was a crazy year. I just had my top 10 books of 2020 go up yesterday, so definitely go check that out if you want to hear more on my reading from last year. But for 2021, I do want to conduct my reading a little bit differently than I did in previous years. So I'm going to start off with my reading goals today and then my YouTube goals, and then I will get into my TBR for the month. Alright, so my first reading goal is one that's kind of expected. I feel like we all make these goals at the beginning of the year in the book community, but that is to read 75 books by the end of this year, but to leave my Goodreads goal at just one book. So I did this last year and I feel like it really freed me in a way, and I obviously knocked that out of the park. I read about 55 books, so I do want to try and read more books this year, but I'm definitely not going to shoot for the huge 100 books or even like 200 like some people I know also do 200 book goals, which is crazy to me. I wish I was fast enough of a reader to actually read that much in a single year, but I am not, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with just reading like a smaller number of great books. So I feel like 75 is an in-between number for me. My usual range is around like 50 to 100 books every year regardless, so this is in that ballpark. And then the reason for the Goodreads goal to be at 1 is just to cultivate that idea of, you know, reading for the joy of it and not to kind of hit a number or whatever. And I feel like that was really nice because at the end of 2020 I wasn't as stressed about hitting my Goodreads goal because I didn't have one on there, so I was just happy with the amount of reading I had done, and regardless I'd hit over 50, which was the goal in the back of my mind regardless. So I feel like I just took off a bit of stress in general, just not having it computerized in Goodreads to yell at me and tell me that I was like 10 books behind schedule in the midway of the year, so it was just nice. My second goal this year is not really a goal, it's just to continue to do something, which is to not rate books on Goodreads or not give books a star rating in general. So this is something that I started doing at the end of 2019, and I'm actually really happy that I decided to do that because it's made reading a lot more enjoyable, but also reviewing a lot more enjoyable, because when I'm not forced to give a book a star rating and kind of shoehorn it into this specific rating, I feel a lot more free about sharing my thoughts. And a lot of times I feel like there are a bunch of books where I felt like it was a 5-star, but you know, I feel like a general public will feel like it's 3-star, or there are aspects of it that I really loved, but there are other aspects that I didn't really love, or it's the type of book where I feel like it's super important and I want more people to read it, but I didn't think it was a 5-star read, but I don't want the fact that I didn't rate it as a 5-star to deter people from reading it, if that makes sense. So this is just a personal thing that I like to do, just not rate books, and it also forces people to kind of read the review that I actually leave on Goodreads rather than just like skimming over my rating of it. So yeah, I think it's just a nice way of, you know, forcing people to not like one glance judge a book, but you may disagree, which is totally fine. And I actually like it when other people rate books. Like, I think it's interesting in hearing their opinions, but I personally just don't like to rate books. And I don't really think of books in like star ratings either. I just think of like the aspects that I liked and the aspects that I didn't like, and then the general kind of feeling that it gave me, but I don't really think of it in like a ranking system. My third goal is one that I've made a bunch of times and I never seem to succeed in it, but this year I feel like I have more faith in myself, and that is to read less young adult books. And this is not a shade on young adult books in any way, shape, or form. You guys know I love YA, I love YA fantasy, I love YA contemporary, I love all YA, but I do feel like I want to read more books outside of the YA category and the like age range, because I am kind of getting older and I do want like older books and with characters who are as old as me. So I'm gonna make a conscious effort to read more adult books this year and also get to a lot of the adult books on my physical TBR, which I've bought and I haven't gotten around to reading. And actually this leads into my fourth goal of this year, which is to read more adult books. So they kind of go hand in hand. I want to read less young adult and read more adult, because at the moment I feel like my ratio is kind of 75 to 25, and I want to make that more like equal or with more adult. And then my fifth goal is one that I already kind of mentioned, but it's to get through more of my physical TBR, and I'm going to do a full video of the 21 books on my physical TBR that I want to get to this year, but I just want to make this a priority because I have so many like physical books that I've bought in the past year, and I feel like I went a little bit crazy on buying books in 2020, so I want to do less of that this year. But I really do want to get to reading those books and not just letting them collect dust on my shelf themselves. And a lot of them I'm really interested in, so I just really want to get to them. And then my 6th goal is to commit to monthly TBRs and monthly wrap-ups. So this is something that I haven't ever done, I think. I've never committed to monthly wrap-ups. I think I tried to when I started BookTube, but I wasn't very consistent with them. And in the past year and a half, I've mostly just done recent reads wrap-ups, which is just me like talking about the books that I've read in the past like couple weeks or like past couple months. So it just really varied. But I have done monthly TBRs. I just haven't done them every single month. So this year I really want to do 12 TBRs and 12 wrap-ups because I want to commit to reading like a specific number of books each month and being really consistent about reading each month, because I feel like I've been doing this thing where I read a lot in some months and then I don't read a lot in others. And so I really want to be more consistent about that and, you know, actually commit to the TBRs that I post. So hopefully I actually finish all the books on my TBR this month, but we'll find out. And then I have a 7th goal, which I just kind of thought of, but that's to buy less books than I did in 2020. So I think I'm going to try and tally up how many books I actually bought in 2020, but I know it was a lot, and I do want to do less of that this year and borrow a lot more from my library. I think I mentioned this in my last book haul of 2020, but in 2020, I feel like a lot of my local libraries have made it a lot easier to borrow from them, especially digitally because of the pandemic. So I definitely want to try borrowing more ebooks and audiobooks from my library and buying less physical books because my collection is just already really huge and I need to kind of pare it down because I am running out of space. So I do want to make a conscious effort to pick up a bunch of books that I've been meaning to pick up, but through an ebook or through an audiobook from my library, so that I'm not owning a copy of a book that I may not necessarily like in the end, or one that I'm just going to end up getting rid of. And I used to do this a lot more when I was younger, when I didn't have my own money, which is borrowing a bunch of books from the library, reading them, loving them, and then buying a copy of it for my collection if I really loved it. All right, and now I have 4 different YouTube goals that I kind of want to relay to you. These don't really relate to you guys. This is just me kind of putting them out to the universe and hoping that I actually commit to them. And we'll see at the end of this year if I actually did commit to them. But my number 1 goal is to do consistent uploads for you guys and do them on Wednesdays and weekends. So I've never actually committed to like a specific day of the week for uploading, and I know you guys know that. You just kind of go with the flow and take my videos as they come, and I really appreciate all of you for that. But I do want to try and upload on specific days, and so I tried doing that a little bit more toward the end of this year, and I mostly succeeded, but not so much in other places. So I really want to try and get a video up for you on a Wednesday and on a weekend every week, 2 videos a week. Hopefully this will work. Obviously I'm going to be busy at different parts of the year, and this is going to be harder at different parts of the year, but that is going to be kind of the formula that I'm going to follow. But if not 2 videos a week, it's going to be at least 1 on the weekend. And if you're curious as to why I chose a Wednesday and a weekend, I put up a poll for you guys to let me know which day worked the best. And most of you said that you preferred the weekend or a Wednesday. My second goal is kind of a strange one, but I was doing the little YouTube year in review thing on TubeBuddy, which just tells you a year in review of your channel, how many views you got, how many videos you put up, and how many subscribers you gained. And I've had a really wonderful year in 2020, but I did realize that I didn't upload as many videos in 2020 as I did in 2019, which was actually surprising to me because I thought I had uploaded a lot of videos in 2020. And so my goal for 2021 is to upload 100 videos throughout the year. 100 in total. That kind of adds up to 2 a week with 52 weeks in the year, but obviously I'm going to fall short on some weeks. So I feel like this is a pretty attainable goal. I'm going to be trying to pre-film a lot more videos this year, so hopefully I will be able to hit that goal by the end of the year and potentially do some sort of Vlogmas or Storymas thing at the end of the year. And then my 3rd and 4th goal for YouTube this year are kind of related, but number 3 is to bring you new content, new kinds of content, and that's mainly going to be journaling content. I'm hoping to do Plan with the Me's and Journal with Me's a lot more this year and really commit to journaling in general because I want to get back into it. I used to do a lot of bullet journaling in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 actually, but I sort of stopped in 2020 and I want to get back into it. So I'm gonna commit to it by doing videos, and I hope you guys will enjoy them and that they will be fun to watch. So that is something new. And then for number 4, I want to bring you content in new places, and so I'm hoping to launch some sort of Patreon this year. I don't know when it will be, but I will let you guys know. But I'm hoping that this will be a nice and exciting opportunity for you guys to get more content from me and more exclusive content, and also just a way for me to support myself a little bit better and bring you guys more and more videos. But those are all of my goals for this year. A lot of them are quite ambitious, but I'm excited for this year and to see where it takes us. And I'm not gonna, put too much pressure on myself this year because of the way that 2020 was, but I still have faith that this can be a good year. But on to my TBR for January. So January is the first month of the year, and I always feel like I always put a lot of pressure on my January TBRs. So I feel like I'm going a little bit easy on myself. I try to make this TBR as short as possible, but I'm also focusing on a bunch of books that I really want to get to that I've been putting off for a while and that really fit with my goals for this year. So that means like reading less young adult books, reading more adult books, and committing to books that I think I'll really enjoy. All right, so the first book that I want to pick up this month is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. So this is the sequel to The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. And for those of you who watched my top 10 books of 2020 video from yesterday, I absolutely loved The Poppy War. It was one of my top 10 favorite books. You can find out what number it was if you go watch that video, but I loved it so much and I cannot wait to see where the story goes in the next two books. So I'm planning to pick up the second book, The Dragon Republic, and then also the third book, The Burning God. I don't have a physical copy of it right now, but I'm probably actually borrowing it from the library and reading it via the ebook, but I'm super, super excited. And as I said in my top 10 books video, I absolutely loved Poppy War. It was just such an incredible read and a really great fantasy read. And I think I haven't read an adult fantasy in a very long time. And so reading that and really enjoying it put a lot of faith in me to read more adult fantasy, and I'm just really excited about that in general for this year, so I definitely think I'm going to do more of that. And overall, I just cannot wait to see where Rin's story is going to go in this book. But for those of you who don't know what The Poppy War is about, it is an adult fantasy. It follows our main character Rin, and it is set in kind of this East Asian fantasy setting, and it's inspired by a lot of historical events, including the Second Sino-Japanese War, so that's also a thing, and it was just a really interesting and exciting book. It does have a lot of triggers towards the end of the book, so I'd be really careful of that. But in general, if you were like looking for a fantasy with like a really awesome main character to just like follow through their journey and saga and like, them growing up, it's super great for that. All right, the next book that I want to pick up this month is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. So this is a new release. It is coming out January 5th actually, so this video is probably going up before that, but I received an early copy from Disney Books, so I'm so excited by that and to pick this up. I've actually already started it. I'm about like 50 pages in, and it's already just captured my interest and I cannot wait to continue with it. But this is a standalone YA contemporary fantasy, like urban fantasy, and it involves like Greek mythology and Greek gods, and it's based around like this hunt or competition where the Olympian gods are kind of sent down to earth in the bodies of mortals, so they are given like a mortal body, and there are these different kind of Greek bloodlines that are given the opportunity to kill and hunt these gods and take their power and become gods themselves and kind of take their place. And so this hunt has been going on for like hundreds of years, and it happens every 7 years, and our main character Lore, her family was kind of murdered by one of the other like bloodlines, and so she kind of hates the entire concept of this hunt. But when the goddess Athena herself comes down to earth during one of these hunts and kind of comes to find Lore and asks her to help her, Lore's like, no, why would I do that? And then Athena's like, I'll help you kill the people who killed your family. I'll help you take revenge. So then Lore's like, okay, fine, I will do what you say and like join you and help you. And the book kind of spirals from there. And there's also a bit of a romance with a boy from another bloodline. And apparently there's like a slow burn romance there, and I'm very excited about that, but it's already showing a lot of promise and I'm really excited about it. And I just really like Alexandra Bracken as a writer. I really liked her Passenger and Wayfarer series, so I'm excited to see how this is going to go, and just the fact that it's a standalone has me really intrigued, so I cannot wait to finish this. All right, the next book that I want to pick up is one that I've been meaning to pick up for so long. I've had it on my TBR for like a year now. I bought it on a whim after I had heard Liv from Stories for Coffee talk about this a bunch of times. It's a translated work that she said was just so amazing, and I've heard so many great things about it. And that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, and this is translated from Japanese, but I actually know like almost next to nothing about this book. All that I know is that it's kind of Orwellian in nature, like it deals with surveillance in some way, and it takes place on like this island, and there are objects kind of disappearing all around the island, and there are these people called the Memory Police who are trying to ensure that everything that goes missing is forgotten. And then it follows this one main character who is a novelist, and apparently the Memory Police are after her editor, and so the novelist kind of hides her editor and is kind of committing investigating this like crime, I guess, and it is very Orwellian in nature. So I'm interested to see how this is gonna go and if I'm gonna end up even liking it. But based on what other people have said, I'm just really excited by it, and I think it's gonna be really interesting. And I don't feel like I've read anything like this in a very long time, especially since finishing school, because I used to read a lot of books like this in university. So I'm very, very excited to pick it up. And I feel like with reading this, I'm going to be committing to my goal to read more adult books and more literary books a lot better, so I'm excited about that. Okay, the next book that I'm hoping to pick up is also an adult book, and it is more of like a literary book, and that is The Henna Artist by Alka Joshi. So this is a book that follows this 17-year-old young woman who is escaping this abusive and arranged marriage, and she is also a henna artist, so she does beautiful henna, and so she ends up leaving her rural village in the 1950s to go to Jaipur, which is like this huge city in India, and she ends up being the henna artist of these very wealthy upper class women. And the main character is known for her like wonderful designs, but also her really good advice, and she ends up hearing a lot of gossip from these women. But things start to go awry when her husband comes after her and has searched for her and finally finds her, but also brings this young girl in tow who ends up being this sister that the main character never knew she had. I am very interested by this book. I want to pick it up originally because it was a Reese Witherspoon book club pick, and I really just wanted to try one of Reese's picks, but I also really want to pick this up because it does follow a South Asian main lead, and it is set in India, and so I thought that that would be really interesting. And I also just really like this concept of the main character being a henna artist. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how this is and if I'll like it. And I think I'm just trying new things, so I'm excited for that. All right, the second last book that I'm hoping to pick up this month is actually a reread, and it's very intentional because there's a new book coming out this month that I want to read this in preparation for. But that book is Graceling by Kristen Cashore. So this is the first book in the Graceling realm books or series, and they're not really like a consecutive series. They're more of like companions, but they do kind of interconnect in some small way. And so this is the first book, Graceling, and I cannot wait to pick this up again. I think this will probably be my third or fourth reread of this book because I love it so much. It's like one of my all-time favorite books, but it is a fantasy. It follows our main character Katsa, and it is set in this world where people have these things called graces, which are these very specific magical powers. So like one character has the grace for combat, another has a grace for killing, and then some people have like a grace for giving people beautiful dreams. Like they can be very, very specific and very strange and interesting, and they connect to the person's kind of personality and the way that they are. And so this is a really wonderful book and has a really great romance to it as well. But the reason I want to reread this is because there is a new addition to this series coming out this month, I think on January 21st or January 19th or something, but that is Winterkeep. And so it's going to be the fourth book in this series, and it connects to some of the previous books, and it actually follows the main character from the third book, which was Bitter Blue. So I want to reread this entire series in general in preparation for Winterkeep, but I think I'm just gonna put Graceling on my TBR and try to finish this one, and then if I get to the other ones, I will get to them this month. And it's okay if I can't read Winterkeep right away, but I just want to get like a taste of this world again, so I thought I would just start with the first one and I can read Winterkeep. All right, the last book on my TBR is one that is just really weird for me, but you know, we're trying new things in 2021, so I'm gonna go for it and we'll see how this goes. But I'm hoping to pick up From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is a kind of high fantasy romance. From what I can tell, I honestly don't know too much about this, but the reason I decided to pick it up was because so many people on book Twitter and booktube and everywhere have been raving about this. But I do know that it's like very similar to kind of Sarah J Maas books and kind of that vibe, so I wasn't like too crazy about that concept because I'm not really a fan of Sarah J Maas anymore, but I do see the merit in some of her books and all of that. So I thought I would kind of try this out as something new and kind of an experiment, I guess. And I've heard that it has like a great romance and that kind of thing. So I was just kind of intrigued, and on a whim I decided to get it, and I want to try it out. So I don't know, this might be like a horrible, horrible experiment and I might actually end up hating it, but I'm gonna try it out and we'll see how it goes. If you love this book, let me know. If you hated this book, let me know. I would love to know all of your thoughts on this book. And another reason why I kind of wanted to pick this up is because I want to read a little bit more romance in general, but I don't want to pick up like straight romance because I find that I don't really like those. So I wanted to try something that was more on the older side, that wasn't really YA, but had like the fantasy aspect to it. So I'll like have that at least, but it's also a romance. Like I think it's more of a romance than a fantasy. So I want to try it out for that reason. All right, but those are all the books that I want to pick up this month for January 2021. I am putting a lot of faith in myself that I'm going to finish all of the books on this TBR, and I think I can do it. Where I live, we are in lockdown right now for basically the entire month, so I do feel like I'm going to have a lot more time at home to read, so I think this is definitely like pretty achievable, and I think all the goals that I kind of set for this year are pretty achievable as well, so I'm excited for that. But I would love to hear from you guys what you're planning to read this month, what you're planning to start 2021 off with, and I would also love to hear what your reading goals are for this year. Are you trying to read 100 books? Are you trying to read 50 books? Are you just trying to read like 10 books? Whatever your goals are, let me know, and I would love to hear from you guys. But thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads in the description down below if you want to hear more reading updates from me and just general life updates. And I will see you in my next video, so please remember that the story ain't over. Bye!